One single pop in the wildcard round and the entire future of the Chicago Bears was thrown into absolute chaos. Ozzy Trapilo's shredded knee didn't just break the offensive line, it left a massive target painted directly on Caleb Williams' blindside. With Ben Johnson's offensive master plan in total panic, the most dangerous job in football now comes down to a desperate camp war between a struggling Braxton Jones and a high-risk reclamation project in Jedrick Wills Jr. Chicago built a brick wall through the interior, but none of that multi-million-dollar investment matters if edge rushers have a free run at the franchise quarterback. This isn't a battle for position depth, it is a brutal war for survival. And unless someone steps up to anchor the left side right now, Chicago is one missed block away from complete catastrophe. To understand how high stakes this situation is, you have to rewind to that cold January afternoon in the wild card round. The stadium was electric, roaring with decades of pent-up postseason anxiety when the snap hit Caleb Williams' hands. Off the left edge, the pass rusher pinned his ears back and fired upfield. Ozzy Trapilo, a colossal 6'8", 312-pound rookie who had quickly become the cornerstone of this line, anchored his post foot, loaded his hips, and prepared to punch. But as his weight shifted, his leg buckled at a horrifying, unnatural angle. In an instant, the stadium went dead silent. The sound of 60,000 fans holding their breath was punctured only by the medical staff sprinting onto the field. Trapilo lay on the turf, hands clutching his knee, his face twisted in agonized shock. The diagnosis arrived like a freight train hitting a brick wall, a severe patellar tendon tear. In football, that is not just an injury, it is a long, grueling rehab sentence that strips away power, explosiveness, and lateral mobility. In a fraction of a second, the Bears did not just lose an offensive lineman for the rest of the playoffs, they lost the giant athletic eraser who had neutralized some of the most lethal pass rushers in the league over the final 2 months of his rookie campaign. When general manager Ryan Poles draft picked Trapilo out of Boston College in 2025, the vision was crystal clear. He was drafted to end a decade-long saga of instability at the left tackle position. Trapilo possessed the rare combination of length, country strength, and patient technique that coaches dream about. He was supposed to be the locked-in, unshakable bodyguard assigned to Caleb Williams for the next 10 to 12 years. With Trapilo taking over the left tackle spot late in the year, Caleb's processing time surged, his pocket confidence skyrocketed, and the Bears transformed from a volatile offense into a relentless, high-powered scoring machine. The front office thought they had solved the most difficult puzzle in professional football, securing the ultimate insurance policy for their prized franchise quarterback. Instead, as day one of training camp opens under a scorching summer sun in 2026, that sense of security has completely vanished. With Trapilo officially sidelined for the vast majority of the 2026 season, if not the entire year, the grand blueprint has collapsed. The single most critical responsibility in the city of Chicago has been blown wide open, leaving Ben Johnson and his coaching staff staring into an absolute abyss. This isn't just about replacing an injured player on a depth chart. This is about protecting a $250 million quarterback investment in Caleb Williams. If Caleb is forced to scan the field while constantly peeking over his left shoulder, suspecting that a 270-pound edge rusher is about to drive him into the turf, the entire system breaks down. The cadence changes, the reads become rushed, the footwork in the pocket deteriorates, and the playbook shrinks to short, defensive passes. One missed assignment on the blindside doesn't just result in a 5-yard sack, it risks a catastrophic hit that could end Chicago's championship dream before the leaves even change color. The bell has rung, the sirens are blaring, and as the whistle blows for the first full padded practice of training camp, the Chicago Bears find themselves locked in a full-blown left tackle emergency with zero room for error. Enter Braxton Jones. If you pull up the tape on the veteran tackle, you see a player who embodies the ultimate agonizing dilemma of modern NFL line play. On paper, Jones has the profile of a classic third-day draft steal who clawed his way into a starting role. Drafted in the 5th round out of southern Utah, he possessed the long arms, smooth lateral quickness, and athletic upside that draft analysts drool over. He spent years logging valuable starting reps on the left side, battling through injuries and quietly building a resume as a respectable pass protector against speed rushers. But when you turn off the highlight reels, dim the lights in the film room, and isolate the end zone camera angles, a far darker and much more terrifying story begins to emerge. The tape never lies, and the tape on Braxton Jones reveals a persistent, fundamental flaw that keeps defensive coordinators in the NFC North licking their chops. Jones has always struggled with anchor strength against raw power. When elite defensive ends hit him with a speed-to-power conversion, his technique completely breaks down. Instead of sinking his hips, setting a firm anchor, and absorbing the force with a violent strike, Jones routinely gets caught with elevated hand placement and high hips. Against explosive bull rushers, he doesn't just give ground, he gets collapsed backward like a lawn chair on a windy afternoon. Look at the third down tape from crucial moments throughout the 2025 season. Time after time, when the stadium was screaming and the offense desperately needed a drop-back pass to convert, the opposing edge rusher knew the playbook. They didn't bother trying to run around Jones, they ran directly through his chest. Watch how his heels get driven backward, sliding through the turf until he is literally shoved straight into Caleb Williams' lap. When a left tackle collapses into the quarterback's pocket space, it forces the caller to drop his eyes, step up into traffic, or flush prematurely to the right. It fundamentally destroys the timing of the entire passing concept. It turns clean, rhythmic three-step drops into chaotic scrambling drills where turnovers thrive and franchise quarterbacks take violent, body-jarring hits. That is precisely why the coaching staff and the front office are terrified of relying on Jones as a permanent solution in 2026. Ben Johnson's offensive system is built on precision timing, rapid processing, and deep intermediate shot plays that require maximum pocket protection. It demands a left tackle who can hold the edge for 3 full seconds against the most destructive pass rushers in the league. You cannot run an elite, high-octane NFL offense when your signal caller is constantly looking over his left shoulder, wondering if his tackle is about to be driven directly into his ribs. Every time Jones gets beaten with power, the ripple effect tears through the entire play design. For years, the organization tried to mask these deficiencies with quick game releases, chip blocks from tight ends, and heavy backfield help. But chip blocking with a tight end takes a receiver out of the progression, limiting Caleb's options downfield and allowing safety help to roll over the top. In modern football, you cannot afford to dedicate 2 players to cover up for the catastrophic weaknesses of one. The Bears spent the entire offseason hoping Jones would take that elusive leap in functional anchor strength, but the tape from 2025 proved that his technical ceiling might already be reached. Now, as training camp heats up, the temperature under Braxton Jones's seat has reached a boiling point. The safety net of tolerance has vanished. The fan base knows it, the front office knows it, and you can see it in Jones' eyes during team drills. Every rep in pads is no longer just a practice rep. It is a live fire trial for his NFL career. One bad set, one missed punch, or one play where he gets pushed back into Caleb Williams, and the whistle blows with an ominous edge. The clock is ticking relentlessly, and the tolerance for failure on Caleb's blindside has officially dropped to 0. When fear takes over an NFL front office, the reaction is fast, aggressive, and often desperate. GM Ryan Poles and head coach Ben Johnson knew they couldn't head into 2026 crossing their fingers and praying that Braxton Jones suddenly transformed into a Pro Bowl anchor. Protecting Caleb Williams is non-negotiable. And when your starter's confidence is visibly shaking, you don't wait for disaster to strike in week 1, you hit the panic button and start firing shots across the entire depth chart. The Bears turned the left tackle position into a fast-paced roster carousel, scouring the market for high-upside wildcards to crash the party and ignite a war in Lake Forest. The headliner of this frantic reclamation campaign is a former top 10 draft pick with everything to prove, Jedrick Wills Jr. Selected 10th overall by the Cleveland Browns back in 2020, Wills entered the league overflowing with rare, undeniable blue-chip pedigree. He possessed the explosive, violent hands and raw athletic traits of a franchise left tackle. But after years of nagging knee injuries, inconsistent technique, and a total breakdown in performance that saw him completely out of the NFL for the entire 2025 season, his draft stock hype had evaporated into total obscurity. Sitting at home for a full year, rehabbing his body and watching the league move on without him, Wills watched his career trajectory plummet from blue blood prodigy to forgotten man. For Ben Johnson, however, Jedrick Wills represented the ultimate lottery ticket. Bringing Wills into Hallis Hall wasn't a cozy depth signing. It was a pure, high-risk, high-reward move, calculated to strike fear directly into the offensive line room. Johnson doesn't care about hurt feelings or past reputations. He saw a highly talented athlete whose market value had cratered, and he saw a low-cost, high-stakes gamble to force a brutal head-to-head competition at the team's most vulnerable position. If Wills can rediscover even 80% of the power and quickness that made him a top 10 pick, he has the raw ceiling to steal the job outright and lock down the left side. But if the rust from a year away from football shows up, or if his body fails to withstand the daily grind of August heat, the Bears could end up burning precious reps on a player running on empty. Yet, while all eyes were glued to the former first-round star, a terrifyingly unpredictable dark horse was quietly lurking in the shadows: Theo Benedet. Undrafted out of the University of British Columbia, the Canadian powerhouse became a folk hero on Hard Knocks before proving he was much more than a feel-good preseason story. When Braxton Jones stumbled midway through 2025, it was Benedet who shocked the entire coaching staff by stepping into the fire, earning multiple starts, and playing with a mean, nasty edge that injected raw violence into the Bears' run game. Benedet is the ultimate wildcard in this battle, unrefined, relentless, and completely unbothered by draft pedigree or reputation. He plays like a man fighting for his literal existence on every snap, throwing his body into defenders with zero hesitation. So here stands the left tackle room on day one of training camp. A high-stakes arena with three completely different fighters clawing for a single spot. On one end, you have Braxton Jones, the embattled incumbent fighting to save his starting career while carrying the mental weight of his past failures. On the other end, you have Jedrick Wills Jr., the fallen top 10 pick desperate to resurrect his NFL legacy before the door slams shut forever. And lurking between them is Theo Benedet, the hungry Canadian underdog ready to rip the job out of both of their hands. Ben Johnson designed this chaos on purpose. He created a pressure cooker environment where no one is safe, no reps are guaranteed, and the battle for Caleb Williams' blindside becomes an absolute dogfight in the summer heat. What makes this entire situation so agonizingly painful for the Chicago Bears is that everywhere else along this offensive line, General Manager Ryan Poles and head coach Ben Johnson have assembled an absolute masterpiece. Go turn on the tape of the interior trio and you are looking at one of the most terrifying, dominant physical walls in modern professional football. This isn't just a solid group of blockers, this is a star-studded, multi-million-dollar fortress specifically engineered to dominate the line of scrimmage and establish total control over the trench. At left guard sits Joe Thuney, coming off an All-Pro campaign where he was crowned the NFL's inaugural Protector of the Year. Thuney is a legendary technician, a four-time Super Bowl champion who has spent a decade neutralizing the league's most destructive defensive tackles with surgical precision, stone-cold footwork, and unyielding leverage. Beside him at center is veteran anchor Garrett Bradbury, brought in to orchestrate line calls and provide lightning-fast, physical anchoring against massive nose tackles. And at right guard, Jonah Jackson brings a brutal road-grading violence that physically punishes opposing interior defenders, clearing wide-open lanes in the run game while providing a stone wall against power rushers up the gut. With former top 10 pick Darnell Wright anchoring the right tackle spot as an elite all-pro caliber force, 4/5 of Chicago's front five is locked down as a top 3 unit in the entire league. When you study the geometry of Ben Johnson's offensive system, this interior wall is designed to give Caleb Williams a serene, pristine launching pad. It creates a solid, impenetrable pocket floor, allowing the young quarterback to step up into his throws, reset his feet, and deliver intermediate strikes downfield with pinpoint precision. Against interior pass rushers, Chicago's interior trio doesn't just hold the line, they erase defenders, crushing stunt games, absorbing blitz packages, and physically imposing their will on every single drive. On paper, it is a front office triumph, a brilliant blueprint built to maximize a superstar quarterback on a rookie contract. Yet football is a game of brutal, unyielding physics, and this is where the grand illusion shatters into a million pieces. Because in the high-speed chess match of modern NFL pass protection, an offensive line is only as strong as its weakest edge. No matter how much money you pour into the interior, no matter how many all-pro credentials Joe Thuney racks up, and no matter how unshakable Garrett Bradbury and Jonah Jackson remain in the center of the pocket, a collapse at left tackle renders all of that elite investment completely worthless. Consider the cold, hard geometry of the short path. An edge rusher attacking the blindside has the shortest, most direct line to the quarterback's throwing arm. When the left tackle gets beaten, whether he gets driven back on a bull rush or turned inside out on a speed move, the perimeter of the pocket instantly caves in. It doesn't matter if Thuney and Jackson have created a 6-foot wide pocket floor in the middle. If a 270-pound pass rusher turns the corner off the left tackle's outside shoulder, Caleb Williams cannot step up. The clock in his head accelerates from 3 seconds down to a split-second panic. He is forced to pull his eyes down from the coverage, drop his shoulder, and flush out of a clean pocket straight into oncoming pursuit. This is the ultimate nightmare scenario for Ben Johnson's offense. Chicago paid top dollar and spent valuable draft capital to build an elite fortress, but they are leaving the main side door completely unbolted. Every dime spent on Thuney, Jackson, and Bradbury, every brilliant play-action concept Johnson scribbles on his call sheet, is held hostage by whoever wins this left tackle war. If the left edge fails, the entire machine breaks. One split-second lapse on the blindside bypasses the entire wall, leaving Caleb Williams exposed, unprotected, and completely at the mercy of the pass rush. As the scorching summer heat settles over Lake Forest and the preseason games loom on the immediate horizon, the time for speculation and chalkboard theories is officially over. When the bright lights switch on and the real game speed hits the field, there will be no place left to hide. Every single snap taken during these August exhibition games won't just be an evaluation for the roster cutdown, it will be a live-wire, high-pressure execution test broadcast to the entire league. The coaching staff will be watching from the booth with microscopic intensity, analyzing every foot plant, every punch, and every inch of ground surrendered on Caleb Williams' blindside. This isn't a friendly competition for depth chart positioning or rotational snaps. This is a brutal, unforgiving war for survival among three men with everything on the line. For Braxton Jones, these preseason reps represent the final stand to save his career as a starting left tackle in the NFL. Every time he sets his anchor against a power rusher, he isn't just fighting off a defensive end, he is fighting off the narrative that he lacks the strength to protect a franchise quarterback. One anchor failure, one bull rush that drives his heels into the grass could seal his fate and relegate him to a backup role forever. For Jedrick Wills Jr., every drive in these warm-up games is a desperate bid to resurrect a once promising NFL legacy from the ashes. Sitting out an entire year proved how cold and fast the league moves on from former first-round picks. Wills knows that this opportunity in Chicago is his absolute last shot to prove he belongs on an NFL field. He is playing with the desperation of a man who has looked over the edge of career extinction, knowing that if he fails to seize the left tackle job now, the phone might never ring again. And then there is Theo Benedet, the unheralded underdog, playing with a relentless, violent edge because he knows he has nothing to lose and everything to gain. Every block he delivers, every defender he flattens, is an attempt to tear down the hierarchy of draft pedigree and prove that toughness and heart can win the most critical job in Chicago. The stakes could not possibly be higher for head coach Ben Johnson and general manager Ryan Poles. They built a powerhouse roster, assembled a dominant interior wall, and handed the keys of the franchise to a generationally talented quarterback. But as these preseason games begin, everyone in the building understands the terrifying truth hanging over Hallas Hall like a dark cloud. You can have the most brilliant offensive scheme in modern football, a 4-time Super Bowl champion at left guard, and an unstoppable array of weapons on the outside. But if the left tackle position crumbles, the entire enterprise comes crashing down in an instant. Preseason football is often dismissed as meaningless exhibition play. But for the Chicago Bears in 2026, these August games are a matter of absolute life and death for the season ahead. Defensive coordinators around the NFL are already drawing up their blitz packages, salivating at the thought of testing whoever emerges from this three-way battle. They will stunt, they will overload, and they will bring relentless heat to the left edge until someone proves they can stand tall and hold the line. Because in the National Football League, protection isn't about average success over 60 minutes. It is about absolute perfection on every single dropback. Caleb Williams can throw for 400 yards, execute flawless play-action fakes, and process coverages at an elite level, but he is still human. He cannot protect himself from what he cannot see. The battle between Jones, Wills, and Benedet will determine whether Chicago ascends into real Super Bowl contention or descends into a familiar nightmare. And as the clock ticks down to kickoff, every fan, every coach, and every player in Chicago is left holding their breath. Because in a league decided by razor-thin margins, you are never as safe as your playbook suggests. All it takes is one miscommunication, one missed punch, or one missed block on the left side, and a 270-pound edge rusher can end Caleb Williams' season and the entire future of the Chicago Bears in a fraction of a second.